Hey everyone, it's Phil Frost from Main Street ROI. I want to welcome you to Master Your Marketing webinar series. This is the first one of the year. We're going to be talking about the top 10 SEO trends. Just go to webinar out of the way. All right, before we get started, I do want to give a quick overview of the Master Your Marketing series. So we have partnered with some industry experts. They were listed on the screen earlier, who have agreed to share some of their best practices, tips, and tricks that have been working, the most up-to-date, actionable digital marketing advice. Each month we'll have a new expert present, and this will run through June 2018. And then we've actually got some more partners signed up for the end of the month or end of the year as well. So we should be able to do another Master Marketing series in the second half of 2018. As you know, it's 100% free. And then by registering, you will also receive an email from the companies presenting. So some of our sponsors, let me just go back and review those. So this series, we've got Optimizer, Active Demand, AdRoll, Campaigner, SpyFu, as well as us, Main Street ROI. We are hosting this. All right, so this month we're going to talk about the top 10 SEO trends for 2018 and what to do about it. I always encourage questions. I see John and Monique have figured out the questions box, and hopefully everyone can hear me now. I always recommend turning off distractions as well. Just get the most out of these presentations if you're not also trying to check your email, scroll through your Facebook feed, catch up on all the political news. And then I like to kick this off with a poll. So let me see if I can get this on the screen. All right, I've got 3 questions here. The first one, are you currently working with an SEO agency or a consultant? And we've got 3 answers: yes if you are, no if you're not, and then if you are a consultant or an agency, that's the 3rd answer. All right, I see a lot of folks are voting here. We've got almost 70% have voted. Let me close it down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, looks like 30% of the folks on the line are consultants or agencies, and about 20% are working with a consultant or an agency. Next question here, just to get a sense for the size of your SEO budget for 2018. You can see some answers here: less than 500 a month, 500 to 1,000, 1,000 to 2,000, or more than 2,000 per month. And I just saw a note here, Carolyn's not getting the audio, so unfortunately you are not hearing me. Let me just type in an answer while everyone's voting. Okay, so let me close that out. Looks like most people voted. And we got 44% less than 500 per month. That would be to be expected. Most people on the lower end, and about 30% 500 to 1,000, 13% 1,000 to 2,000, and then about 14% more than 2,000 per month. Last question, then we'll get started here. What other digital marketing channels are you currently using? Are you using Google AdWords and/or Bing ads? Sorry, just looks like Stephanie said audio is working. Thank you, Stephanie. So again, if you're advertising Google AdWords or Bing ads, Facebook advertising, if you're doing any type of email marketing, social media marketing, or if you select other, which I see about 7% have selected other, if you could just type in your answer into the Q&A box. Curious what you're doing there. Carly said CRM. Lots of answers here. Iris, LinkedIn. I should have put LinkedIn as an option. Mobile. Yep. Reputation management. Lots of LinkedIn advertisers here. And then John, a little bit on the gray hat side. I appreciate the honesty there. All right, let me close out and we will get started. I will answer the frequently asked question, are we recording? Yes, I did click record, and we typically get the recordings edited, uploaded to YouTube, and sent out within about 24 hours. All right, this is your first presentation with Main Street ROI. You're probably wondering, who the heck am I? Why should you listen to me? Again, my name is Phil Frost. I'm the founder of Main Street ROI. Our business provides digital marketing services like SEO, online advertising, and Google, Bing, and Facebook, as well as email marketing, and we do some WordPress development as well. To date, we've helped over 2,000 businesses with their digital marketing, and my thought leadership has been featured in Forbes, Inc., Amex, as well as Mashable. And this is my favorite slide here. I'm also the proud father of 2 cute kids. We've got Violet there on the left. Her 5th birthday was January 2nd, so we just celebrated that earlier in this month. And then Emmett, my chubby son on the right, he's going to be 3 years old in April. He's getting pretty big. Believe it or not, they basically weigh the same. I think Violet's like 40 pounds, Emmett's 38, something like that. And my beautiful wife, Erin, in the middle. And we live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. All right, here's what we're going to cover. Obviously, the 10 SEO trends. But I'm not just going to talk about the trends. We'll also talk about what you need to do based on these trends. And then at the end, I do have a special offer for the attendees. And we'll have live Q&A. All right, trend number 1 is an ongoing trend, but it is getting even more important every single year. And it's the fact that your prospects are demanding mobile-friendly websites. You are probably already aware of this. This is actually an older graph, but it shows that actually back in 2014, there were more people using the internet on their mobile devices than on their desktop computers. That was, I find that very interesting considering I got started in digital marketing in 2006. I had a old school flip phone that did not access the internet. And when we would launch marketing campaigns, all we had to do was worry about desktop computers or laptops. And we would design pages and sales funnels for prospects just on the desktop or computer screen. And here's a stat from Google as far as what are people doing on mobile. 82% of smartphone users say they use search to find local businesses. So it's a huge opportunity, especially for businesses trying to target local customers, clients, patients. As you are probably well aware, a lot of your prospective customers are now doing searches on their mobile phone to try to find your products and services. So most obvious takeaway here is that you need to have a mobile responsive website. Believe it or not, we review a lot of business websites, and there are still quite a few that are not mobile responsive or mobile friendly. What that means is when you go to the website, it's basically just a scaled down version of the desktop site. And when you take a desktop site and you shrink it down to a mobile screen, it's barely readable. And then the functionality is very difficult to use, because when you try to click on links with your thumb on a with very small text, you end up clicking on the wrong links and just getting pretty frustrated. So it's a bad user experience versus having a mobile responsive site that doesn't just scale down, it actually changes the design so that the font size is still large enough to read, and then you have nice big buttons that are easy to click, even click-to-call buttons on your mobile phone since people are using a phone. And that brings us to the second key takeaway here, is that you want to think about the sales path differently for each device. So when people are using their computers, they're likely using a mouse and they're clicking around, and it's much easier to complete a form on a computer because you have a nice big keyboard. Everyone knows how to type. But when you're on your mobile phone, a big long form is a little bit harder to fill out. I know it is for me. I'm not very good at typing on my mobile phone. I'm much more likely to find the phone number on the website and again use that click to call. So I know on a phone, if there's a big button with a phone icon and it says click here to call, that's a nice call to action for a mobile device, but that doesn't really make sense for a desktop computer. You're not going to click and make a phone call on your desktop. So you might have a different key takeaway here, is that the sales page will likely be different, and that call to action can be different depending on the device that the user is using. And the other key takeaway here is to start thinking about and implementing cross-device tracking. And that's something that Google AdWords has been working really hard to improve. And they are now able to track a lot of conversions across devices. So if someone clicks on an ad on a mobile phone and then actually converts on a desktop or vice versa, you obviously want to be able to track that and be able to say, okay, my ads drove that conversion, even though the conversion happened on a different device than the one that they used to click on your ad. All right, trend number 2 is that Google is also demanding mobile-friendly websites. This was old. This was back in 2016. They announced the idea that they were going to have this mobile-first index. Took them a little bit longer than anticipated, but they have finally launched their mobile-first index, and they're starting to roll it out with the goal here of likely having it completely rolled out in 2018. So the time has finally come since they first announced it in late 2016. And if you're not familiar with mobile-first indexing, again, back when I started in 2006, Google, had their algorithm set up so that it would look at your computer website and make decisions about how you would rank. And that made perfect sense because not a lot of people were using mobile devices back then. But now, since more people are actually going to Google and searching on their mobile phones than computers, it made sense for Google to kind of flip that. And now Google is going to start going to the mobile version of your website to make decisions about how your website should rank in their search engine. So it's a huge change when you think about it. A lot of businesses obviously don't even have mobile-friendly websites. We already talked about that. But then there's also a lot of businesses that have mobile sites that are just not very well set up. And if that's the case, Google's going to go to that mobile site that might not have all the content that you have on your computer site. And unfortunately, Google's going to make decisions about how well you should rank or how high you should rank based on the mobile version, not your computer version. So 5 key takeaways here. Go test your site if you haven't already. Google has a free tool. It's at google.com/test/mobile-friendly. And that tool will tell you if you have any mobile issues with your site, with some tips for how you can fix it. Then you also want to test your page speed. And you can just go to Google and search for, usually do a search for like page speed test tool, and that should pull up Google's tool. Or you can just use these slides. I will be sending out the slides, and you'll have the link here. And that obviously will test the page load speed, so how fast your site loads. And that is a factor in Google's algorithm, because obviously Google doesn't want to rank a website high in their search results if that's going to give the user a pretty bad experience of a slow loading site. So if you have a slow site, that'll actually, Google will demote you and you won't be able to rank as high until you fix that site speed issue. Next, you can monitor Search Console. So if you're not familiar, Search Console was formerly known as Webmaster Tools. This is a great tool if you're not already set up. You want to go create an account. And then once you have an account, you will use that tool to analyze your website from an SEO perspective. And one of the things you can look at, there's in the navigation an area for search traffic, and then you can check out mobile usability. And Google will tell you if their spiders are finding mobile usability issues. For example, you might find in Search Console that your site on mobile has layout issues. So content might be too close together, so it makes it hard to use. You know, if someone wanted to click with their thumb and the content is squished together, that's a usability issue. Google can actually determine that when they spider your site. And the nice thing about Search Console is they'll actually give you that heads up and say, hey, you have this issue that's hurting your SEO. Fourth takeaway here is to add structured data. I'll talk more about this throughout the presentation and clarify structured data. But basically, the way to think about structured data is you want to spoon feed information to Google. For example, with local SEO, it's very important to have your name, address, and phone number be consistent on your website and on other websites. That's something called a citation. And what you can do is actually tell Google explicitly with code on your website, your developer can do this with structured data and say, hey, this is my name, this is my company name, this is my company's address, this is my company's phone number. And then you can have other structured data. You can have customer reviews, structured data. The list goes on, and you're basically telling Google all of this information about your business that makes it very easy for Google to go grab and put into their index, and then Google will use that in the search results. And the reason this is a key takeaway is a lot of businesses have already done that on their desktop version or their computer version, but you also need to make sure that's all set up on the mobile version of your site, because with the mobile first index, again, Google's going to look at the mobile site and use that to determine how you should rank. And then I mentioned this earlier, you want to make sure to add more content to your mobile pages. A lot of businesses have a dedicated mobile site that is pretty lightweight as far as content goes. And that was a good tactic right when mobile started to pick up steam. Businesses just quickly created a real scaled down version of their site that would be accessible to mobile phones. But now with this mobile first index, you really can't think of it as just creating a scaled down version of your site. You really have to think about it as, how do I replicate what's on my computer or desktop version of my site and actually get that all on the mobile version, so that Google has all that content to make a decision about how well you should rank. All right, I see some questions coming in. I do want to let you know, if I don't address them right away, we'll go through those in the live Q&A. Just want to make sure we get through all this. All right, trend number 3. If you haven't noticed this, Google's first page is extremely crowded. So here's a screenshot I took. I did a quick search not too long ago for physical therapist. Again, I'm in New York City, so So you see a lot of local New York City results. I will point out one of our clients, Manhattan Physical Therapy and Pain Center, is right there, number 2 in the local results. What's interesting here, though, is the yellow highlighting is on my screen. That was what's above the fold. So before I scrolled, all I could see was what's in the yellow highlighting. And it's pretty interesting how different that above the fold page looks compared to, last year, a couple years ago, or versus, several years ago. Not too long ago, the right side used to be all advertisements, but they wiped out those. So now there's only 2 ads at the top. Then you can see the map, what we call local SEO, or the local map results with the businesses there. And then on the right, you're seeing information being pulled in to those new card formats, and that's coming from a lot of the structured data that I talked about earlier. So 6 key takeaways based on the fact that Google's homepage is now extremely crowded. First one being that you need to diversify your marketing. If you didn't notice, I'll highlight it again. The first organic listing, which for this search was thebalance.com, that's the #1 ranking site, but you can see it is not in the yellow highlighting, so it was actually not above the fold. You actually had to scroll down quite a bit just to see the first organic ranking. So if you were relying just on SEO, because of the way Google is now changing their first page, unfortunately, you would not be getting as much traffic as you were, not too long ago. The other issue, I mentioned they wiped out a lot of the advertising spots, and this is pretty simple economics here, where we now have fewer ad spots for that particular keyword. There are only 2 being displayed, and when there are limited ad spots, that's going to increase the competition, increase the advertising costs. So unfortunately, with pay-per-click advertising in Google AdWords search, those cost per clicks are definitely rising. I just mentioned this, the first organic listing is not even above the fold. So unfortunately, you'll be losing some of that SEO traffic if you're not also advertising or also in that local map results. I also want to call out the fact that the structured data is above the fold in the upper right corner there. Google's grabbing that from structured data on other websites. We saw the local map, so that's local SEO, and we'll talk more about that. I think that's the next trend. And the last key takeaway is just to be continually monitoring Google's first page for your priority keywords. So if you are investing in advertising, you're investing in local SEO or traditional SEO, just monitor at least on a quarterly basis. Take a look at the first page and just see what's going on there as far as how Google is displaying the results, and that may indicate that you need to invest more in a different type of strategy. I already mentioned, key takeaway here being diversification. If you were just relying on SEO for that particular keyword example, it would make sense to also look into pay-per-click advertising as well as local SEO. Really quickly, I saw a question. Are we discussing fold for the mobile or desktop? I won't scroll back up, but that was for a desktop computer. But you do need to do the same thing for mobile devices. That's a good point. And Robin, I'll get to local SEO and actually this trend right here. So trend number 4 is that local SEO is critical for what we call locally focused businesses. So what is local SEO? Basically, if Google ever thinks that you are searching for a local business, then Google will display the map on the first page like you saw earlier. And then in that map, you'll see the icons that show where those businesses are located. And then below the map, you'll see the business name, usually address and phone number, and possibly reviews as well. So local SEO is basically getting your business to show up in that map that's now being displayed prominently on Google's first page. And that info is coming from your Google My Business page. So it's a little bit different than traditional SEO. Traditional SEO is trying to get your website to rank on the first page, but with local SEO, you're really trying to get your Google My Business profile to rank high in the map results. So again, it's different from traditional SEO. There's 4 key takeaways as far as how to get ranked there. First and foremost, you need to set up and verify a Google My Business profile. That should be pretty obvious. And you need to do that for each of your different locations. So if you have a couple different store locations, let's say you have 2 different store locations, you would set up 2 different Google My Business profiles. Let's say you have 3 offices, you're in New York City, Chicago, and San Francisco, then you would have 3 different Google My Business profiles in each of those locations. The next step is your website does affect your local rankings, so it's not completely separate. And one thing you can do to help your local rankings is to edit your web pages, and you want to include your city, state, and if you can fit it, the zip code in your page titles. And that's a good signal to Google. If they see in your page title tag, they see your city, state, or city, state, and zip code, or some combination of those 3, then that's just a good signal to Google that you are a locally focused business looking to attract customers that are nearby. Third key takeaway, I mentioned this earlier, is citations, and that's mentions as your name, address, and phone number. The acronym there is NAP or NAP. And I mentioned how one thing that Google looks at is having consistent information online. It's basically, Google needs to make sure that they're displaying accurate information. And if your name, address, and phone number is published online using, let's say, several different phone numbers and several different locations, since let's say you've moved over the past 3 years, then Google's not going to have as much confidence when they display your profile that they're displaying the correct information. And again, you got to look at it from Google's perspective. If someone's doing a search, I'll use the same example for a physical therapist, and Google shows information, and you click to call that business, and it goes to a sushi restaurant, you're going to be pretty frustrated, and you're going to lose trust in Google. And if you keep doing that, you will start to use a different search engine. Google knows that. Google gets a lot of revenue from their search engine when people click on ads. So that's basically a threat to their business. They don't want to lose users, so they need to be extremely confident that what they're putting in the search results is accurate and it's up to date. And one thing they use to do that is they look at all the citations to make sure that it's consistent information across the internet. The fourth thing they look at is reviews. This is not everything, but these are, if you can do this, you'll be well on your way to getting ranked. And having reviews. Again, think about it from Google's perspective. They want to make sure they're showing legitimate, well-run businesses in their search results. And one factor there is taking a look at reviews, not just the quantity, but also how frequently, or what's called the velocity of the reviews. So if you're getting a consistent stream of reviews, let's say 1 a month, 2 a month, 10 a month, that is also a very positive signal to Google that, hey, this is a business that is, it's still in business. They haven't closed down. That's a good signal, as well as the fact that they're probably providing high quality products and services, and that's why other customers are providing reviews. Janice asked a good question. Do I recommend local SEO for all businesses? And the answer is no. If you don't actually, so a classic example would be a 100% e-commerce type business. The reality is, for all of your relevant keywords, the local map results are probably not going to be displayed, because Google knows when people are looking for your products that you're selling, they're not actually looking for a local business. Now, if that's not the case, and you're doing some searches and you see that Google's showing the local map results, and you and you have a local presence, then it would make sense. But if you don't, and Google's not showing the local map results, then it's just not a good fit. All right, trend number 5 is, I'm saying it's the idea of getting comfortable with structured data. I do have a warning here that this gets technical, and I will admit myself, I don't actually get involved with coding for structured data, and it actually took me a while. Structured data has been around for a long time. I've personally been dragging my feet as far as getting my hands dirty, using structured data. And I realize it definitely can sound scary when you start thinking about coding, adding code to your site. But the reality is, somebody on your team needs to learn this. It's actually not that complicated. And the other reality is that Google's starting to add more and more of what are called rich features. And that's related to that screenshot I showed you in the upper right corner. Google was showing some information. In that case, I think it was coming from Wikipedia. But Google is constantly updating their homepage, and they're showing carousels now. You've probably seen those. They're showing site link search boxes. So you could do a search, and then you can, from Google search results, you can search other websites, which is pretty cool. You've probably seen product reviews showing up on the first page of Google and having star reviews. Even job postings can be fed to Google, and then Google will display that. So there are all of these different categories, different options that you can use. And the reality is, the more you use, the better, because you're giving Google more ammunition for a prospect to engage with your listing on the first page. You don't control what Google puts on the first page, unfortunately. All you can do is give Google as much information that you have, give Google all the tools, and then Google takes those tools, displays them however they want. And then, as you can imagine, if you have more rich features in your listing, you tend to get a higher click-through rate, and that higher click-through rate is going to lead to better rankings. That's actually the next bullet point there. So results with rich features are going to get that higher click-through rate, and then click-through rate is a factor in your rankings. If your listing is getting more engagement, more clicks, then Google's going to move you up in the rankings. And the opposite is true as well. So if a lot of your competitors are doing this and they're getting a higher click-through rate relative to you, then unfortunately they would move up and you would actually move down. First key takeaway, you want to assign someone to be responsible for this. So it can be someone in-house, for example, your web developer, someone who's comfortable with code, needs to learn either schema, that's one format, or JSON, JSON is another JavaScript version. There's documentation, and again, you'll get the slides with the link to the introduction to structured data. And then, I already mentioned this, just add all the relevant structured data to your pages. Give Google as many tools as possible to make your listing stand out. And Google also gives you a way to monitor your rich results in the search engine. And you can do that again using Search Console. There's a section called Search Analytics. And then within Search Analytics, you can filter those results by filter search appearance by rich result. And you'll get data on the different types of rich features that Google's showing for your website. All right, trend number 6 is related to link building. And I'm saying build relationships in 2018, not links. So again, when I got started in 2006, link building, what I would call now old school link building, was basically self-created links. What you would do is you would write articles, and in those articles you would link back to your site, and then you would publish those articles on like easyinarticles.com. There were these article directory websites. There were lots of them that you could submit to. And in summary, that was basically link building back in 2006, and it did work. And then over the years, Google caught on to that, link building scheme and really cracked down on the value of those links, because at the end of the day, there shouldn't be much value in that. That's, the business creating an article itself and then linking back to its own website. Anyone can do that. It doesn't really show that that business deserves to rank higher. So Google has really figured out a lot of those link building schemes. You may have heard of blog networks. That was kind of the next iteration after article marketing. Businesses created these blog networks where the sole purpose of the blog was to then link to other businesses to improve their SEO. And again, that worked great. Then Google started to crack down on that and would remove the value of all of those links. Because at the end of the day, Google's algorithm does look at links from other websites, and what they want to see is links from legitimate websites that are actually referencing your website and saying, in effect, like, hey, here's a link to this business. This business is legitimate. I recommend them. And then if you have a lot of those legitimate type links, then you'll rank higher in Google. So the key takeaway, or one of the points I'm trying to make here, is that you want to focus on relationships and focus on quality relationships, not quantity. Really, back in 2006, the name of the game was quantity over quality. People were writing really low quality articles and getting really low quality links to their sites. And the complete opposite is now true in 2018. It's much better to have a handful of super high quality links. And what I mean by that is just, from a really credible website or a credible local news site referencing you. That's going to hold a lot more weight than dozens, hundreds, even thousands of low quality links. Another way to put this is you want to think about links as a byproduct of just really good marketing. So in a way, I would say don't even think about links. But that's not really true, because Google's algorithm does look at links, so it's kind of ridiculous to say just ignore them. But at the same time, you don't want to be focusing your marketing to try to get links. You want to be doing great marketing that then, as a result, does get links at the end of the day. for example, really good content marketing with articles, webinars, online videos, social media. If you have a lot of good content and then promoting that on social media, engaging on social media with other influencers, that can then lead to them linking to you. And even traditional PR, if that makes sense for your business, getting PR and getting in front of local media, national media, that is then going to lead to those types of sites linking to you. So key takeaway, again, build real relationships in your industry. What I mean by that is looking at other businesses that you could partner with, not just from an SEO perspective, but just from a business perspective. Could you be a referral partner with some of these businesses in your industry? And then in addition to referring business, you could then also write about different topics, publish those on your blogs, and then link to the other business, and that would be a legitimate link. So again, form business partnerships. You could contribute to an industry magazine or industry, like an online magazine website. And I would also encourage you to build relationships with local journalists, even getting a column in a local online newspaper, magazine, and having that column that would then link back to your site. Again, that's a legitimate link from a credible source, and that's going to hold a lot of weight in terms of SEO. All right, trend number 7, brand mentions. So not just links are also a ranking factor. And this, I think this was last year, not too long ago. Dwayne Forrester, who's a former senior product manager at Bing, he was at a conference and he explained that Bing already uses and is on the record saying that they use brand mentions as a ranking signal. So part of Bing's algorithm actually looks at how many other websites are mentioning your brand name, even if they don't link to your website. So what that essentially is a citation. So if someone writes an article, mentions your company name, but they don't link to you, Bing is, again, on the record saying that would help you rank higher in the search results. Now, Google has not gone on the record to say that, but it's highly likely that they are using brand mentions. And we already know that Google is on the record saying that they use citations. So they do look at mentions of your name, address, and phone number, and that is a factor, one of the factors in the local rankings. My belief, that is not, it's definitely not fact. They haven't published this, but I would be surprised if Google's not also using brand mentions as a ranking factor. So key takeaway there is to invest in press releases, because that will give you both citations and brand mentions. And we've seen this for our clients. We've seen some big improvements in rankings just from press releases. So one client in particular was ranking about, I think, number 20 in the mid-20s for their main keyword in the local results. And we issued a press release which had their name, address, and phone number in it. So it was a citation that got picked up by other media, so that it ended up being lots of citations for our client. And just from that, we saw a nice trend in ranking improvements, and they got up to, I believe, number 2 in the local results just from that press release effort. I think that was within about a month. They jumped from, I think it was mid-20s or maybe it was mid-40s in the rankings to number 2. So that definitely is a tactic I would recommend. I would also recommend encouraging customer reviews. There's no secret sauce to getting customer reviews other than asking. And what I've found works the best is just having that be a goal in your company. Make it top of mind for the people who are communicating with your customers. For example, if you have people in the field going to customers, maybe you have a service-oriented business, you're going to their house, make sure that that's top of mind for them, and they have a process to encourage reviews when they're on site. If you have a storefront, again, encourage the person at the reception area or the cashier. Make sure they're constantly asking for those reviews. Or if you do business over the phone, whenever you hear any positive comments from your customers, just follow that up with a request for a review. And I find it's best to then email a request. So you can certainly ask for it, make a comment over the phone or in person, but then also follow up with an email that then has the link to where you actually want that review. And then third key takeaway here is to form partnerships with other bloggers and provide guest posts. All right, trend number 8 is voice search. And I'll admit I kind of stuck my head in the sand last year around voice search. Then I was finally given an Alexa for, I don't know what it was, my birthday or some holiday. Alexa made its way into our kitchen. And now I'm starting to interact with Alexa. I'm starting to figure out how this all works. And it's pretty interesting. If you're not familiar, more and more people are now talking into their phones. There's Google, so you say, okay, Google. There's Siri, Alexa, Cortana. And Google's saying that 20% of mobile queries are actually voice searches. It's pretty significant now. And then ComScore published a prediction here. They predict based on the trends that by 2020, so just 2 years from now, 50% of all searches will be voice searches, which that's pretty surprising to me. I don't know if it'll be that high, but the fact that it's already at 20%, I mean, that it could be realistic. And more and more people are getting smart devices in their homes. More and more people are using smart watches and doing searches like that. And it's important to note that a lot of the answers are coming from structured data. That's one way that Google can quickly get information, because again, with structured data, you're spoon feeding Google with a lot of that information that they would need. So again, one of the key takeaways here is make your site mobile responsive. That's because a lot of these searches are coming from mobile devices, and you want to make sure that you have a mobile responsive website, or else you will not be in the running to even rank for voice searches. And then again, you want to use structured data on your website. And the last takeaway here is to create content-rich, frequently asked question pages. So if you've attended any of our SEO trainings, you've probably heard me recommend having a resource center on your website. And the purpose of the resource center is to have articles on your site that are they're optimized for research intent type keywords. So people searching questions, for example, how much do dental implants cost? So if I'm doing that search, I am in research mode. I'm not looking for a dentist. I'm not going to schedule an appointment today. I'm just doing some research. But if I do that search, or if I speak that into my phone, and then the result comes from your dental practice, and I read your answer, and then your answer leads into, what makes your practice unique, why patients choose you, and gets into a lot of the key selling points, I'm obviously way more likely to go and schedule an appointment with your dental office when the timing is right. So it's a great way to widen your marketing funnel, get in front of prospects who are not ready to buy right now. They're doing research, and you want to be in front of them so that when they are ready to make that decision, they actually go to your business. All right, trend number 9 is secure websites have an advantage. If you are not aware of this, Google is pushing really hard for a secure internet. So they're pushing really hard for businesses to have a lot of security. So back in 2014, Google announced sites using HTTPS will get a ranking boost. So basically, I think the way they put it, if all else is equal with your competition, and you have a secure website and they don't have a secure website, you would outrank the competitors. So it's not a huge ranking boost. It's not going to kind of make or break your business, but it's basically like a tiebreaker type ranking factor. So if everything else was equal and you had the secure site, you would outrank the competitor. And then just last year, Google's browser, Chrome, will now show not secure for sites that are not using HTTPS. For example, in this image here, you can see the example. In this example, it's saying login.example.com. And then to the left of that, it's saying not secure. And Google, I believe, is going to make that a little bit more prominent in Chrome, with basically the long-term goal here is they want to be very aggressive and warn people if your site is not secure and you're trying to collect information. For example, if you have any type of lead gen forms on your site where you're collecting name, email address, phone number, and your site is not secure, then, and they're using Chrome, they're going to see that not secure, and then over time, Google will be getting more aggressive with how they warn people about sites that are not using SSL certificates or security. So 2 key takeaways here. I would highly recommend you buy an SSL certificate. They're only about $70 a year. You can go to GoDaddy.com and take a look at their certificates. It's not a big investment. And then you do need to take it a step further. So you get the certificate installed on your site, and any developer or server admin can get that done for you, or I believe GoDaddy would even do it for you. They'll install it. Once it is installed, that means you can go to your site by going to HTTPS. That S stands for secure. So that's great. That's step 1. But then you want to do step 2, which is the 301 redirect all of the non-secure traffic to the secure traffic. I give you the example here, which is our site. If you try to go to our site with the non-secure version, HTTP, it will automatically redirect you to the HTTPS version. And that's what you want. You want all of the traffic to flow to that secure page, and therefore all of the SEO value would also flow through to the HTTPS version. All right, trend number 10 is that technical SEO will make or break your rankings. And things are definitely getting more and more technical over the years, but this is basically the foundation of your SEO. So if you don't get this right, nothing else you do with SEO is going to help you rank. And the first item here is your site structure and what's called user experience, or kind of the usability of your site. That plays a huge role. So if you don't have the correct site structure, that would mean you don't even have the right pages on your site to rank in Google. So you need to have individual product and service pages on your site to have them rank when people are searching for those products or those services. So that relates to site structure. And then having a good user experience is something that's becoming more and more important, something that Google's really pushing for, because Google wants people to be satisfied when they ultimately click through in the search results and go to that website. So it needs to be a good user experience. I'm sure you're already familiar with meta tags. These are, again, this is the foundation, the blocking and tackling. You need to get this right. These are your title tags, your meta descriptions. Quick note here, Google made an update and your meta descriptions can be up to 320 characters. Used to be only 150, so that's a pretty substantial change, more than double now. Google will now show longer descriptions in the search results. Canonicalization is still critical, making sure that your website's only accessible from one version of the domain, so either with www or without the www. And then you want a 301 redirect one version to the other version. And then if you have a e-commerce site and there are multiple ways to view the same product, you want to make sure that you're telling Google which URL is the canonical URL that you want them to rank in the search results. Duplicate content, everyone's familiar with that. You want to make sure you do not have duplicate content on your site, and also be aware of the fact that Google's not going to index multiple pages that have the same content. We already talked about site speed and the importance of that. We already talked about security. That would also fall under the umbrella of this technical SEO, as well as structured data and having that responsive, mobile-friendly design. So key takeaway here, I already mentioned this. This is where you need to start. You need to make sure you have all the technical SEO issues resolved as quickly as possible before you even get into the nitty-gritty details of getting links from other sites. So make sure your site's set up properly with the right structure, make sure you don't have any errors, and then move on to what I call building up your website's reputation, which gets into links and citations. And then I would recommend having an SEO audit being done at least quarterly. That's something we do with our clients on a quarterly basis. Things change, both in the Google's algorithm, things change, but also things change on your site. A lot can change over 3 months. You might add a bunch of new pages. You might do a website redesign. You might delete some pages. Somebody might go in and accidentally add a no index tag to certain pages. Believe it or not, that happens. And if you don't have a process in place to just be checking up on your site at least quarterly, then you can go a long time without catching some big issues that are ultimately preventing you from ranking. All right, so I promised a special offer, and then we'll get to live Q&A. So the special offer is 3 step-by-step 90-minute video training courses. The first one here is the complete SEO tune-up. You can go to our site, mainstreetroi.com/training, and you'll see we have a lot of training courses. They're sold for $97. The other one is the local SEO formula. The third one here is Introduction to Google Analytics and how to get analytics set up properly and how to run all the reports you need to monitor your marketing. Total value there, 3 times 97 is 291. But attendees can get this for only $97. So it's basically buy one, get 3. And you go to mainstreetroi.com/SEO bundle. And the link is on the bottom of this screen. And we will get to Q&A here. Let me just go through this list. I think I addressed a lot of these questions that came in early. I already addressed them. All right. All right, bear with me. A lot of these questions were already addressed. Dave asked a question as far as what is considered fast and what is slow. So with site speed, and Jody said, are there performance benchmarks for site speed? I highly recommend you use the link that I provided. It's Google's Page Speed Insights tool. So you can Google that or wait for the slides and you'll have the link in the slides. That tool will give you a score out of 100. And what we found is anything over 70 is typically fine. You'll be okay. When it comes to site speed, from an SEO perspective, you basically have a pretty wide range of what's okay. And then if you're below, I believe it's 50, that you're in the red. So any whatever number it is in that tool that shows red, that's basically an indication that that's hurting your rankings. You obviously want to fix anything that's hurting your rankings. But then once you get it out of the red, I believe it's right around 70 out of 100, then you're technically okay from an SEO perspective. But with that said, anything you can do to increase your site speed is only going to help, because it's going to increase the conversion rates on your site. More of your traffic is going to be clicking around quickly, be able to find what they need quickly and check out if it's an e-commerce site, or call or fill out a form. Arian asked, wouldn't a responsive site design address the structured data and content issue of your site as opposed to running a dedicated mobile version? So I do highly recommend a responsive site design versus a mobile version of your site. Sorry for not clarifying that. That's because of what Arian was bringing up here, the fact that if you have two different sites, your desktop version and then you have a mobile version, you basically have to maintain both sites, and you have to make sure, if you add structured data to your computer version of the site, you'd have to then duplicate that over on your mobile site. So that just creates additional work, versus a responsive site responds to the device and changes automatically to show what needs to be displayed to the mobile versus desktop. And with that said, you do want to make sure that what's being displayed is, you want to make sure that all the information is still being displayed to the mobile version. Looks like that was Drew's question as well. So is the code the same? And I will admit right away, I'm not a developer, but I do know that you can build a site that displays a certain amount of content, and certain images can be displayed for the desktop version, and you can actually have different content on the mobile version. So I do know that's possible, and you want to make sure that what you're showing to the mobile version of your site is has all of the information that you want to show Google that would help you rank, including the structured data, as well as any of the content that you want to show them. Daphne had a great question. If you don't have a physical store but just an office space, can you set up Google My Business profile? Yes. So if you just have office space and no clients really go there, you would still have that office address. You can still create a Google My Business profile. If no clients go there and you actually go to the clients, you would then have the opportunity to select that it's a service area business. Or I believe they phrase it, they have two options. One, customers come to me, and the other option is I go to my customers. And if you choose the option where you go to your customers, then your address will not be displayed in the search results because it's not needed. And that's another good option for home-based businesses. If you don't want to show your home address and you still want to be ranked in the local results, you could set up a Google My Business profile and then select that you travel or you go to your customers' locations. And Christine, please say again what NAP is. So that's name, address, and phone number. It's just an acronym. Alex asked, what if you have two locations in different zip codes? So it really doesn't matter. If you have two separate locations, wherever they are, you would create two separate Google My Business profiles. Kathy, yes, you could put your county instead of the city in your title. What I would think about, though, is what are people actually searching? So if people are searching, dentist in New York City, then it makes sense to have New York City in your title. If more people are searching dentist in Manhattan and you're located in Manhattan, then it would make more sense to have Manhattan in your title. So just take a look at the keywords to determine which words you want to put in their title, if it's the county or the city, as well as the zip code. Chris, if you're a national business, the big question is, first of all, are people looking for your business nearby, and are they getting local results? And if they are, it would make sense to optimize for local SEO. But if no one's really searching for what you offer for a local, let's say, let me just say you're a consultant and no one's really searching for your type of consulting services locally, then Google would know that, and Google would not be showing local results for your relevant keywords, in which case then it wouldn't matter, and local SEO is just not a good option. Another good question here, I believe this is from Rob. Businesses just outside of a major city, for example, Denver, but their business city suburb is golden on the website. How can a business tell Google to serve to Denver customers? So the reality is, with local SEO, location is a critical factor. And this is a frequently asked question with local SEO. And it makes sense just intuitively. If someone is in Denver looking for a Denver dentist, Google's going to prioritize the dentists that are actually in Denver and are actually near that particular customer that's searching. So there's no way around that. It's just, that's what Google should do. If you just think about it from the Google's perspective as well as the customer's perspective, someone's looking for something in their city. They want to find businesses that are actually in their city. Now, with that said, for that example, what you would want to do, let me just assume that you are a service area business and you serve customers in Denver as well as Golden and maybe 5 other areas, I would recommend having service area pages on your site, and you could have whatever service you provide. Let's say it's you're a fence company and you build fences. You could have a fence company serving Denver could be a page on your site, and that would then be a signal to Google that, hey, you do serve customers in Denver, and you would have a better shot at ranking when someone in Denver is searching for those services. Josh, as far as you're serving 3 cities close together. Again, one idea, if it's a service area business, is having different pages targeting the different cities. That would be one option. And again, that does need to be unique content. Kind of goes without saying. Other than that, if you are in one of those 3 cities, Josh, then I would optimize for the city you're actually in, because that's where you have the most likelihood of ranking, and you might as well capture that audience. And then the other cities, like I said before, unfortunately, the businesses that are actually in the respective the cities, those businesses have an advantage. All right, just going through the list here. Myrna, yes, I was referring to SEO title tags, not the page URL. Let's see. Charlene, you asked what influences the order of the local maps. So basically what I was referring to when I walked through those key takeaways with local SEO, one of the big factors is having a Google My Business profile set up and verified, having lots of citations, having your website set up properly, where you're mentioning your city, state, zip code in the title tags, getting reviews. Those are all factors that are going to affect the ranking in the local results. All right, I'm trying to get through this list. I know we are well over the time now. For everyone that is on, when I do close out, I have a quick survey. I would appreciate the feedback when I close this out. I'm gonna give it another 5 minutes to try to get through all these questions. Kaliani, sorry if I mispronounced that. Kaliani asked, please give an example for quality relationships. So examples there, I'll just give you a couple from my personal experience. So I currently have a column on targetmarketingmagazine.com. So that's a very good relationship that I have with the editor there, where I'm publishing content on that site. And with that, I get links back to our site. We obviously have good relationships with our partners that are in the Master Your Marketing webinar series. And because of those partnerships, those folks are going to be presenting on our webinars. And then we also will publish articles on our respective blogs with links back to each other's businesses. So that's a good relationship to have. So you can form what we call content partnerships. And then we have lots of referral partnerships and white label partnerships with other marketing agencies and complementary service providers. So those are strong relationships that we have. And then some of those lead to mentions on our sites that then become links back to our site. And all of those are relationships that were established not for SEO, but because of those relationships and because of the links that resulted from those relationships, those then improve our SEO. Chris just asked specifically, how does SEO work for local banks? Since they're so heavily regulated on what they can put out there. So it works the same way. And this is another frequently asked question with regulations, especially with customer reviews. Certain businesses, it's not realistic to get reviews. For example, if you serve in the health industry, some people are not going to go on record and say they have a health problem. So kind of with that in mind, just realize, Chris, if you're trying to rank a business that's regulated, obviously all of your competitors are regulated as well. So first thing I would do is take a look at what are those other businesses doing that are already ranking to get some ideas. But basically the process is still the same, whether you're regulated or not. And then as far as doing content marketing and publishing content, you're just going to have to get that all reviewed by your legal team to make sure you're in compliance. Someone asked, what press release site do you recommend? I recommend PR Web. I've gotten good results with them. Brett asked when I talked about the client's press release. So that client, we did a press release through PR Web. That's a press release website, syndication tool where you publish on PR Web, and then PR Web pushes the content out to other media sources. So journalists out there will be receiving that information. And if it's a topic that they're interested in, they would then pick that up and they could write about it, or other websites will just pick it up and republish it on their site as kind of filler content. Just check time. I'm going to give it 2 more minutes here. Mary said we get reviews, but put them on our website. Yes, you should definitely put the websites on your site, but I would also encourage you to get reviews directly into Google My Business. And I would recommend doing that. You would email. It's best to do that via email because then you can link, send them a link directly to go leave that review. And I apologize, Todd. I was saying Alexa and your Echo Dot was freaking out. My kids actually have an Echo Dot in their room, and they turned it on one time, and that totally freaked me out. Okay. There's a ton of questions here. I'm going to have to go through some of these, and I will follow up. And what I would also encourage you is, if you have any additional questions, I'm going to close out, and there's a quick survey. Would love your feedback. And then in that survey, you can also send in any questions that you have, and we can follow up with those. All right. It is 20 after here, so about 20 minutes late. Apologize for going over, but this was a good session. Sounds like some good feedback from everyone here. And again, we'll follow up with these questions. I apologize for not being able to address them all. And again, we're going to have one of these presentations every month, one from each of our partner going to be on a different topic of digital marketing. So thanks again for joining. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday and have a great week.